Mr. Speed Racer. Might as well. I'm walking through a ghost town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down, don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong, don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. Yeah, we're lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. Whether you are live on YouTube, live over on Facebook, or live on Roku TV, thanks to those wonderful, wonderful folks at Northeast Sports Productions. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing great. Never had a bad day.
Never once?
Nah. I think I've had a blessed life. I'm good.
I like that, Mo. Mo, you are bringing people up this morning, sir. You are uplifting. I like that. Someone had to do it, and it had to be Mo, right?
Why not? I'm here. I'm here for it.
Mo, I hate to go here, but every now and then, this is the one position in the NFL that when the wheel gets a little squeaky, when the wheel needs a little bit of oil, you start to label this position. You start to label certain people who play this position, and you start to have to kind of ask questions. And there's two types of squeak when it comes to this wheel. There is the me squeak. There is the diva squeak, if you will. And then there is the just kind of can't get out of my own way kind of squeak. And I'm not saying we're there yet, Mo, but I'm saying this could be chapter one. This could be chapter one of that conversation for young Rashee Rice, who is the star young wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs. Rice obviously had he had a moment, if you will, not too long ago with the traffic incident, the car accident.
Oh, that's right.
He was doing the street racing. It led to an accident that involved, multiple cars. He left the scene. There was some question of, where was he? Did they want him? Was he wanted? And he eventually turned himself in. He apologized. He said all of the right things. And obviously he is handling the legal side of that. Well, Rice's name popped back up with the law yesterday. He is currently being investigated for apparently assaulting a photographer in a nightclub. Now, Mo, I'll be honest, I don't know how many photographers hang out in nightclubs. So initially when I saw the headline, I was like, oh, why was there a photographer in the nightclub? All right, but okay. But obviously, you don't want your number one wide receiver to be assaulting anybody, Mo, whether it be a photographer or anybody else.
Correct.
And again, this could very easily be one of those things where it was somebody that was getting a little out of line, and assault could very much be a strong word, because remember, Tyreek Hill assaulted a fisherman, and that consisted of him slapping them in the back of the head or something like that.
Right.
Assault gets stretched out sometimes, Mo. But regardless, the point is, if you are the Kansas City Chiefs, this is the second time that his name has popped up in a couple of months with run-ins with the law. The first time was definitely legitimate. We'll see what comes of the second situation here. And I think one thing can be said here, Mo, that's not what you want. If you are an NFL team, You do not want your number one wide receiver, and Rice is the number one wide receiver. He may not be the number one pass catching option. That is obviously Travis Kelce, but he is the number one wide receiver. And you do not want your top wide receiver to keep having run-ins with the law, Mo. So, regardless of how this second one plays out, he is on a team that is coached by Andy Reid. He is on a team that is going to be a perennial Super Bowl favorite when you have Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback. His team is looking to three-peat a Super Bowl this season. This could very much be something we never hear about again. And he could go on to have a great season this upcoming year. They could get back into the Super Bowl, and it's simply a footnote. And Mo, that's where I hope it ends up. Simply a footnote. He had a weird end of the season, off-season kind of thing, and then we were good to go. But once you start getting a couple run-ins, Mo, we gotta open the book and be like, where are we going with this? Are we going to get things cleaned up, or is this going to become more of an issue down the road? And I think it's fair that we open the book with Rice and we just see where we're going to end up.
I think that's a fair assertion. Look, in the end, sometimes your talent can keep you around no matter what you may be into or not into off the field. But I think the Chiefs are the kind of organization that at some point, if there's another incident, I think they would cut ties with him. I think they would move on from him. He's their number one wide receiver, but I wouldn't call him a star wide receiver. I think that could they survive without Rashee Rice? Sure. They did just sign Hollywood Brown, who's a proven deep threat in his own right. And you're right. Travis Kelce is still the number one receiving option. And Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl throwing to basically a bunch of 4s and 5s before. So,
and let's not forget they drafted Worthy, I believe is his name.
Yes. So look, I think this is one of those things where you don't want to make excuses. You can say he's young, but that's not an excuse. He's still a grown man, and you've got to make better decisions off the field, bottom line. And when you start putting your hands on people, we already talked about the car accident and that incident and how he handled that initially. I think Rashee Rice is one of those guys that just needs to grow up. And at some point, the question is he going to start making the right decisions before Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs organization move on from him? Because like you said, this is not what you want from your number one wide receiver.
And again, it could be a footnote in the long run, and we hope that's what it is. But 1 time is a happenstance. 2 times could be a coincidence. 3 times is definitely a pattern. And we're hoping this is the end for it. But Mo, you bring up a great point. He's a superstar wide receiver for a team that doesn't really have superstar wide receivers.
Right.
If you take him and you put him on other teams, he's not a superstar wide receiver. So when you look at someone that is this young into their NFL career with a team that is as buttoned up as the Kansas City Chiefs are, that are going places, and he doesn't need to be a part of that if he can't handle being a part of that, I can very easily see Coach Reid being like, listen, it's not working out. And then at that point, to your point, Mo, he's not going to be knocking down other franchises' doors because he isn't elite talent. He's a good receiver, but he's also a good receiver with Patrick Mahomes. What does that look like? If are you a good receiver with a lesser quarterback?
Right. What would he be with? And I'm not saying this kid won't become a very good quarterback, but what would he be with Will Levis? I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think he's a good player. I don't know if he's a difference maker yet. What I do know that if he doesn't get himself together, the thing that he loves to do, I believe he loves to play football, he's going to lose that. And it'll be because of his own doing, because of his own lack of maturity. So I think he's had a moment, multiple moments. I just think that because the Chiefs are so buttoned down that they keep things so close to the lip, they're not going to want this kind of distraction going forward. They're just not.
Listen, Gene, to your point in the chat, I had to pause because my go-to was Zach Wilson, and he's not currently a starting quarterback in the NFL. Zach Wilson was my go-to for catching strays. I didn't have one lined up, so I'm glad that Mo came in there with somebody.
Right, but what I mean is Levis is a young quarterback still trying to establish himself. I wasn't saying like he was Zach Wilson-ish. I wasn't saying that. I wasn't
Zach
saying
Wilson was my go-to for these conversations. I need a new go-to, Mo.
that. Right. Well, I mean,
It might be Will Levis. It might be.
I
mean, it might be.
Well, depending on how he plays. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Speaking of Will Levis, we're going to talk to Gene about Will Levis later on. And you're right. Depending on how he plays, he might be the new go-to.
Right. Right. I don't want it to be, though. I don't want it to be.
Look at you again, uplifting this morning.
Yeah, I want everybody to be good. Why not?
We gotta start talking about Buddy Hield or something. We gotta get Mo a little spicier this morning. We gotta bring up some like Trae Young to the Lakers talk or something.
Yeah, now you can bring me down. Go ahead.
Let's get Will on here this morning. We got NBA stuff to talk about. Will, welcome in. How are you this morning, sir?
How you doing, guys? Thank you for having me this morning. How you guys doing?
Good morning, Will.
Good morning.
Will, Hack Game is always on point, sir. Glad to have you on. Let's jump right into it. Before we get to the playoffs, I want to talk a little bit of Paul George. Will, I'm going to put it right out there for you. Does Paul George deserve a max contract?
No.
Is he going to get one?
I don't, in my opinion, I don't think he will. If you go back and look at his injury history and his playoff performances, I don't really think he deserves one. He had a chance to show in the playoffs this year that he could be the quote unquote man, the quote unquote, he can be playoff P, as he keeps saying, and he came up short. So I don't think he deserves a max contract. He'll probably end up getting it because of his tenure and the position that he plays, but I don't think he deserves it.
Well, the talk right now when it comes to George is if he can't get it with the Clippers, can he get it somewhere else? And that one somewhere else that seems to keep popping up on the rumor and innuendo mill is the Philadelphia 76ers. So do you see either of those teams being a place where he could get himself a max deal? We know that LA needs stars, but at the same time, we've talked about this all the time. Stars are one thing. Old guys who can't stay healthy are another thing. Right. And it seems like right now they got some old guys who can't stay healthy. If Paul George gets himself out of the Clippers, yeah, he'd be a nice fit in Philly, I think. But I don't know if he'd be a max deal nice fit.
Well, he wouldn't be a max deal with most GMs. But Daryl Morey's not known for building teams with young players, building them up. He's known for always like finding a new Band-Aid, bringing in a new star or an older established star. So I'm looking at the Sixers with Embiid's timeline, with Maxi's extension, they're built to win now. So, yeah, Paul George would fit what they're doing because you look at Paul George, you got to assume if he can stay healthy, you're still looking at Paul George playing at a high level for another 3 or 4 years. And in Philly, he would have less responsibility because he's not the number 1, 2. He's the number 3 option in Philly. My only question is Daryl Morey going to give him the full max or is he going to give him a shorter deal, but it'll be a max? Because I wouldn't give him the full max. He's not going to get the full max from the Clippers. They've offered him a big contract, but it's shy of the max. I think the only way he gets the max is if the Clippers and Sixers do a sign and trade, and then he can get the max. And Daryl Morey's definitely built for that. I can see Daryl Morey doing a sign and trade, sending back some pieces, maybe a couple of picks for Paul George. I think Paul George either lands in Philly or he lands with the Knicks.
Well, which fit do you like better, Philly or the Knicks for Paul George?
Philly. I like Philly better. It makes more sense for them to for roster construction because they need to take minutes off Embiid, and I think he'll be the perfect player to do that.
Anything taking some minutes off of Embiid is going to be nice. Let's talk NBA playoffs, gentlemen. We had 2 games last night. I'll be honest, neither were that exciting when you look at the end results. But they were kind of exciting going in. Let's start with the one that we thought was going to be a blowout, and it was a blowout. It was the Celtics and the Cavaliers. Will, we knew going into this series it was going to be an uphill battle for the Cavaliers. Many are predicting a sweep. Those who are just being kind to the Cavaliers are saying it's going to be a gentleman's sweep. I haven't seen anyone predicted going 6. What you saw last night kind of went how we thought it was going to go. Will, are the Cavaliers going to get a game? Let's start there. Are they getting one game? It is Boston after all.
I'm under there. I think Donovan can get you one, but I think that's all they get. I think it will be a gentleman's sweep, particularly if you look at the numbers from last night. They were so inefficient in terms of plus minus last night. It wasn't even funny. Mitchell had 33 points last night, but couldn't get nobody to come along with them. So I think they might get one at home. But past that, no, I think this would be a gentleman's sweep for the Boston Celtics.
Look at those numbers from last night, though. The Celtics shoot almost 49% from the field, 39% from three, dominated the boards 55-38, and only had 6 turnovers. Like that's where Jared Allen comes in, right? That's the value.
He didn't play last night,
right? Exactly. But my point is, that's the value of a Jared Allen.
Yep.
If Jared Allen is there, that rebound and differential switches immediately. Their offense becomes more efficient because he gets a lot of stickbacks. I'm not saying Jared Allen is Embiid or Joker like, but he is impactful on the defensive side of the floor. I'm in agreement with both you guys that I think Donovan Mitchell will have a crazy game and go 45 or 50 plus and get you one, but it's not going to be a long series.
No, it won't be at all.
And gentlemen, I mean, if you just look at the first quarter of that game last night, Cleveland puts up 34 points. You walk away from that first quarter in a bubble and you're like, okay. But at the same time, they gave up 40. Like they don't have the talent to hang in there with the Celtics. So even when they are firing on all cylinders, which they weren't in large stretches last night, but I would say overall they played a pretty good first quarter, they still gave up 40. Yep. So, and I think that's what you're going to look at this entire series. You're going to have those moments where if Cleveland can keep it together and they can play to their potential for a decent stretch, they're still going to have Boston being right there playing 2 or 3 steps higher than them every step of the way. And then, of course, you know, they had those moments like the fourth quarter last night where they didn't play their great basketball and they were like minus 10 or 12 in the fourth quarter because, again, they just don't match up to Boston. But, guys, the other matchup, I thought that OKC was going to win this one. I thought it was going to be closer, though. Will, it was another one of those 20-plus point victories, OKC over Dallas in Game 1. Talk to us about what you saw. Are you surprised that it wasn't competitive? Did you think that it was going to be like this for Game 1? What is your view on the series coming out of this first game?
I thought it'd be a little bit more competitive because I thought you would have a more consistent Luka and a more consistent Kyrie Irving. And I also thought PJ Washington was going to show up last night, which he didn't. Look, those two guys in Kyrie and Luka, they have to play almost perfect basketball. And even then, they still need people to come along with them. PJ gave you 10 points. Those guys have to put up 30-point games and be more active. Neither one of these teams are the greatest rebounding teams in the world. OKC is a little bit younger. They're going to be able to get the loose balls. They're going to be able to get on the floor rebounds and things of that nature. But for Dallas to win, Luka and Kyrie have to play damn well near perfect and need somebody else to come along with them with the same type of game. That's going to be kind of hard for the Mavericks.
Gene brings up a really great point in the chat. If you look at the rest quarters, so the first quarter out of the gate, Dallas played good. I believe they were tied going after the first quarter. If you look at the third quarter coming out of the break, they look good. They closed it to a one-possession game in the third quarter. But when you got into the second and the fourth quarters, Dallas looked tired. That is an astute observation by Gene from the green room. Mo, we're not making excuses over here for the Mavericks, but when you're looking at how Game 1 shook out and you're looking at what Dallas is going to need to do to start taking a couple of the games in the series, if you're a Mavs fan, tell me some things. Tell me some things that make me feel better.
I think you can feel better by the way that you get the kind of game you got from Daniel Gafford. I thought Gafford was great. He was meeting everybody at the rim. Very effective, very aggressive, strong finisher at the rim. I thought he was the best player in the Mavs last night. I thought he came to play. And I think that when you look at Oklahoma City, let's not forget, they go about 9 deep. Very few, they go 9 deep. And in a league where everybody says shooting is at a premium, what Sam Presti does as a GM is he recognizes that shot creation is at a premium. If you don't have guys that can create shots or get their own shots, shooters don't have nearly the much value. Look at Oklahoma City's starting lineup. Everybody in their starting lineup can put the ball on the floor, including Chet Holmgren. Everybody on their starting lineup can shoot the three. They're not a little bit younger. They're a lot younger. And if it's going to be a game where it's about energy, where it's about depth and about talent, there's no way the Mavs can win. The Mavs, if you're a Mavs fan, you guys need to control pace. You need to walk it up. Luka doesn't like to be sped up. He wants to walk it up. He wants to dictate tempo. So if they're going to have a chance to win, if that is true, that's very true.
Very true.
If they're going to have a chance to win, Kyrie can't wait to the second half to be aggressive. He's got to come out from the outset and be aggressive. If Luka is struggling, then Kyrie needs to go off. So the game ended up being a blowout, but I saw a closer game than most people saw. It really came down to turnovers and poor shots, poor shooting. The Mavs didn't play awful, but the way they handled the ball, I think between Luka and Kyrie, they had 10 turnovers. Like just those two alone. Luka shot a terrible percentage. Luka couldn't even make free throws. It's a curious matchup for this reason. A lot of people complain about shot or free throw merchants. Well, you've got two of the best free throw merchants in the NBA in SGA and Luka. And SGA got to the line, made his free throws. Luka struggled to get to the line, and when he got there, he didn't make his free throws. If this series is going to be about depth and talent, it's going to be a short series. The Mavericks have to slow down tempo. Luka's got to control the pace, and they've got to get more, like Will said, from PJ Washington, or it's going to be a very short series.
And the coin, the turnover thing from you, Luka and Kyrie by themselves had 15 total for the game for the Mavericks.
Crazy.
You can't have that. You can't have that and think you're going to win the game. I don't know. I agree with Gene though. Luka does look like he's lumbering out there. Yeah. He really does look like he's lumbering out there. I don't know if it's back, foot.
He hurt his knee in the Clippers series, but they say he's okay to play.
He didn't look like it last night.
Well, see, okay to play is not the same as he's healthy, right? Because the Clippers thought Kawhi was okay to play in Game 2, and he looked horrible and didn't play, and they didn't play him again after that. So okay to play doesn't mean you're healthy.
Well, we got a game tonight in the NBA playoffs. If you're a Pacers fan, you have to ask yourself: are we playing the Knicks? Are we playing the Knicks and the officials? Who is coming out of the locker room tonight to go against us? What do we have to be prepared for? It is Game 2, Pacers and Knicks. The Pacers had everything lined up for them in Game 1. The last 35 seconds or so of Game 1 did not go the way the Pacers were hoping for, specifically with some very questionable calls and some calls that I think even casual NBA fans would have been like, oh, that's not that. But the officials said it was. Will, what do you think is going to happen here in Game 2 tonight? Is this going to be a situation where the Pacers kind of rally and say, we know what probably the outcome should have been in Game 1, so let's go take care of business Game 2? Or do you think maybe they come out a little sluggish and the Knicks take advantage and they're going to be up 2-0 when it's all said and done?
I think the Pacers come out there. I think they come out there kind of rejuvenated a little bit. They're a young team. I think they come out there and they say, hey, we were in position to win this game. You got to put the officials behind you and go out there and put your foot on somebody's throat. And that's exactly what I think they'll do. They came close to getting that win. And I think they will get that win tonight and tie that series up. Look, you can't depend on the refs for anything. You need to go out there and handle your business. And I think that's what the Pacers will do tonight.
Mo, you got the Pacers tonight?
I don't. I think I think the Pacers will play better, and I think it'll be a close game. Look, Brunson getting 40 plus, I wouldn't sweat that. What you should be concerned about is when Josh Hart and DiVincenzo combined for 45 points, that's a problem. That's a problem. That we're talking about two guys that during the regular season combined for about 25 points. You can't let them go above and beyond what they normally are production-wise. So you can't let role players kill you. He could get 40 plus, but if you shut down the role players, you can't let Josh Hart out-rebound your bigs, okay? He's 6'4", but he looked like he's 7 feet in there snatching boards. And it's not a fluke. He did that in the Sixers series as well. I think the Pacers are the more talented team. I think the Knicks are the better team. So I think it'll be a tight fit game. If you want a key to this series, Tyrese Halliburton has got to play better than he's played.
Yep.
Jalen Brunson is 6'1". Now he's physically stronger, but Halliburton is 6'7", a legit 6'7". You have to use that height advantage, use your quickness, stop taking deep threes and attack the basket. If Halliburton attacks the basket, it changes the entire series because right now Jalen Brunson is resting on defense. If you want to push the Knicks to the brink, you've got to make Jalen Brunson play defense.
Got to make him work.
Yep.
Well, we appreciate you coming on here once a week, sir. Have a great day, all right?
Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Everyone have a great day.
Mo, if Josh Hart keeps playing the way that he is playing, we're going to start wondering about is this playoff Josh?
Playoff Josh.
Because I tell you, you watch Josh Hart during the regular season. This is not who Josh Hart is. One series and one game into the playoffs.
He's a star. Yeah. Good player during the regular season, but in the playoffs, he's been a star.
100%. And again, it's only one series and one game, but if he keeps doing this, I'm just saying, make the t-shirt playoff Josh. All right, we got the NFL genius himself. Gene is about to get up here. See the graphic change. That's how you know things are happening. Gene, welcome to the screen. How are you this morning, sir?
Feeling pretty good. Got a day off finally, man. Very busy few weeks.
Gene, you heard us down in the box. We said we were going to talk a little bit about Will Levis. He might be the go-to beating horse around here now with Zach Wilson not currently having a job in the NFL. We'll see. We'll see. We're really open. We are open opportunists here on the morning show. But Gene, let's talk about Will Levis. Will Levis has a new offense around him. That offense is going to be Tony Pollard at running back. DeAndre Hopkins is still there. Calvin Ridley is going to be joining them this season, and they just recently signed Tyler Boyd. So you're looking at, and you can look at what that offense was last season. Derrick Henry was there. Say what you want about Henry versus Pollard, but he has some new pieces around him. You take into consideration the division they're playing in, Gene. I think that's important as well. What do you make of what the Titans have done on the offensive side of the football? And do you think that we are going to see, I'm not talking Super Bowl or I'm not talking AFC conference. I'm talking, are we going to see Levis take the next step as far as being a franchise quarterback and being someone that can get you a division at some point and can get you playoff wins?
So earlier I mentioned Mo taking strays, sending strays at Will Levis. I'm going to send some direct shots.
Oh, great.
And listen, I'm just going to call it like I see it when I look at this. Am I the only one that looks at this Titans offense and their structure and their base players and think it's like the land of misfit toys? Like, no. I feel like it's just because like when I look at that offensive structure, I see two slower receivers, an aging DeAndre Hopkins, who's 31, a Tyler Boyd, who's made his entire career out of the slot. I see a guy in Calvin Ridley who's never really lived up to the first round hype. That he had 1 year where he scored a lot of touchdowns in Atlanta. Last year, he had the drops in Jacksonville. I don't think he's the guy. Tony Pollard, who's never a number one running back, but you get to feature him with Tajay Spears, but they're both kind of slashers. There's no real bruiser in that room. Like, I look at that offense and I say, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of nice names, a lot of nice pieces. I think the one thing that you got to kind of rest your head on is I think their offensive line will be a lot better. But with Will Levis, his biggest strength is his arm. He has ridiculous arm talent. And I just don't know, outside of Treylon Burks, their fourth wide receiver, and maybe Calvin Ridley, if he can get out of his head with the drops, who he can really stretch the ball with. Nuke isn't that guy anymore. He's a possession receiver. It's who he is. Tyler Boyd's never been that guy. I think the Titans finished 4th in the AFC South, and I think Will Levis his poor decision making will show up a lot more this year, just like it did in college. I think Will Levis caught a couple of us by surprise with this huge arm last year. Not me. I've seen that arm. That's what he has. He has a rifle, but I'm not. I'm sorry, Jory, and I'm sorry for any Titans fans out there. I'm not bought in on Tennessee. I think they're the 4th best team in the division. I think they have the 4th best quarterback in the division. I can't really buy into that. I think they have the 4th best defense in the division. I think they finished last.
Gene just killed my mother-in-law's hopes. He just shattered the in-laws' hopes.
And I don't mean to do that. And at the end of the day, like, I know a lot of Titans fans, and I'm sure that Titans have a lot to be, I guess, excited about. But like, if you really break them down to team versus, do you think they're going to be better than Houston this year? Do you think they're going to be better than Jacksonville? And Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence are in a must-win year. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about, is Trevor Lawrence a bust? Does Doug Peterson not know what to do with the offense? They're in a must-win year. And Anthony Richardson, say what you want. Shane Steichen's offense looked great around him last year. I think that they're the 4th best team in the division. And they might be the best 4th place team in all of the NFL. But I think they're the 4th best team in the division.
Gene, it's almost like when you draft 10 out of 12th in your fantasy league, and sometimes the buzzer gets to you and you're just making quick picks at the end, and you look at it and you're like, man, if they all just have their best season, we got this.
Yeah. And that's what it looks like, right? Like, it looks like the land of misfit toys. I just feel like that they overpaid Ridley, and I don't understand that. Now they have Treylon Burks as their 1st-round draft pick last year, is now their 4th wide receiver. I don't know.
Gene, this was interesting. JJ Watt has gotten himself into the news twice this past week. Once he has basically said that he, although be it in jest, but obviously, people do this for a reason. He has said that if coach needs him, he will come out of retirement and suit back up. Just give him the call. I believe he could, Gene. I believe he could come out of retirement and suit back up if needed. And then he's also in the news because he got into a little back and forth with Austin Rivers. That's right, the NBA's Austin Rivers, because Austin Rivers went onto the Twitter machine and said, quote, I can take 30 players right now in the NBA and throw them into the NFL. You cannot take 30 NFL players and put them into the NBA.
I don't get that.
JJ Watt responded and said, you don't got a job in either right now. So go ahead and enjoy it. And he's not wrong, by the way. But Mo, we'll start with you. Can you take 30 NBA players and just drop them into the NFL right now and they're going to have success?
No, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. You don't just drop them into that kind of physicality, that crash and burn league, and just look. There's only one guy who you could probably do that with, and he plays for the Lakers, and you know who I'm talking about. Everybody else is just a guy who would get trashed. I don't believe that. There's some great athletes in the NBA, but I don't think you can just take 30 guys and drop them to the NFL and they could do whatever they want in the NFL. I don't believe that at all.
So I look at that comparison and I think both of them are nuts, right? Because they got him back and forth. Like Pat McAfee was talking to Austin Rivers about it and said they can put 30 NFL players in the NBA. You can't do that. Right. And like, let me just be very clear. I think there's a better chance of taking the NBA superstar and moving them to the NFL than there's a chance of moving an NFL superstar into the NBA. Like Antonio Gates would be my perfect example, right? I mean, he was a fringe, decent college basketball player. He's one of the best tight ends in the history of football. Mm-hmm. I think that you can find niche places where you can move an NBA player to the NFL I don't think any NFL player would be able to be a positive contributor on an NFL roster. Any NFL player would be a positive contribution to an NBA roster. I think they're both nuts, though. For Austin to think there's 30 people that you can just drop in the NFL, like there's plenty of really good wide receivers, bro. Relax. Where else are they going to play? Can you think of an NBA player that would play anywhere else besides receiver, corner, safety?
No. Nope. Unless someone's hiding an arm cannon in there that we just don't see very often. All right, Gene, before we get out of here, I wanted to do this. Bleacher Report ranked the 12 best quarterbacks in the NFL heading into this season.
Okay.
We're going to go through the list 12 to 1, and I just want to get your blind reactions as we're building upon each.
I haven't seen this list yet.
Beautiful.
So
that makes me even
you're
more
going to get a blind reaction.
So, Gene, well, let me give you the quantifiers, okay? This is going into 2024.
Okay.
So this is based on 2023. And more specifically, it is based on the advanced analytics. They compiled their advanced analytics from Pro Football Reference as well as StatHead, as well as some other common acceptable stats when it comes to measuring greatness of current quarterbacks. All right, those are the analytics.
Projecting what they're going to be 2024. Got it.
Correct. All right, starting off at number 12, they have Justin Herbert with the Chargers. So that's their baseline. They have, I know, that's what I said too. They got Herbert at 12.
That's really low. I don't know if I can name 11 quarterbacks better than Justin Herbert, but that's really low.
They could be projecting him coming off an injury. I don't know. That their baseline is Herbert coming in at 12. Number 11, they have Matthew Stafford.
I already have a problem with the list, and nothing against Matthew Stafford, but I don't think there's anything Matthew Stafford does better than Justin Herbert. Like not one thing. Maybe toughness.
Maybe toughness. All right. So Herbert at 12, Stafford at 11, Tua at 10.
It's another reason I like Tua, but Tua couldn't hold a candle to Justin Herbert. And maybe it's to Justin Herbert. Let me get the Justin Herbert out. I like Tua ahead of Matthew Stafford, so that's fine. I'm okay with that.
At number 9, Joe Burrow.
Way too low.
Okay.
The second best quarterback in football. You have 9?
I agree. But
okay.
Coming off an injury, maybe that's what they're
looking
at.
So what?
I don't know.
He's cold, bro. Joe Burrow's cold.
Number 8 is Jared Goff. I know it's weird, right? You got a list of the quarterbacks, and you got Jared Goff ahead of Joe Burrow. But that's what we're rolling with this morning.
What does Jared Goff do better than Joe Burrow? What? Stay on the field? That's it.
I don't want to interrupt, but I don't think he's better than Stafford either.
Oh my God.
Cottrell said Burrow can't stay healthy. Keep that same energy when you
I know what he said. I know his opinion. It's his opinion because he thinks Lamar is the top 5 quarterback, but Lamar can't win big playoff games.
Number 7, CJ Stroud.
I mean, that's a pretty high ascension. To have that one, listen, I love what CJ Stroud did in his rookie year.
It was a good year. It's a good year.
You know who else had good years? Jalen Hurts had a good year. Yep. Carson Wentz had a good year. Yep. A lot. RG3 had a good year. There's a lot of guys that had good years. I think putting him as the 7th best quarterback in the NFL right now is a little high.
Number 6, Brock Purdy.
That's absurd. Drop Brock Purdy in the Cincinnati Bengals offense, and you tell me they get better.
I'm not going to argue with you there.
Drop Brock Purdy into the Houston Texans offense and tell me they get better. You can't. That's so absurd. Okay.
Top 5. Number 5, Jalen Hurts.
That's ridiculous too. He shouldn't be that high. Look, I love Jalen. I'm a Jalen guy. He shouldn't be 5. That's a really high rating for him right now. I think Jalen's 8, 9.
Okay, it's fair. Number 4, Dak Prescott.
I mean, I guess we're talking about regular season only.
That's right, regular season only.
That's it. So regular season only, I agree.
Number 3, Josh Allen.
So hold on. Before you tell me number 2, I know Mahomes is 1. I can't in a million years think about who number 2 will be.
Oh, you can think about it. Come on.
Lamar?
Oh, Lamar. They have Lamar.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Lamar,
That makes sense. Okay.
Lamar 2, Mahomes 1. So their top 5 is 1 Mahomes, 2 Lamar, 3 Josh Allen, 4 Dak Prescott, 5 Jalen Hurts. I feel like if you take Jalen Hurts out of there and you put Joe Burrow in there, I'm not saying in that exact order,
Yeah.
but I feel like that would be people's top 5. Rearrange it a little bit depending on your personal preference.
Yeah.
But I feel like those would be people's top 5s. I have no issue with the top 4. I agree Burrow should be up there. I don't know why Burrow is as low as he is. I also think that Herbert should be just outside of the top 5, 6 or 7. I think this year he's going to play into the top 5. I think he's going to have a terrific season this season.
Herbert?
Yeah, Herbert. Yep.
Yeah, the problem with Herbert is this, right? And I don't know. How good is Ladd McConkey going to be?
Yeah.
They have no wide receivers over there. Now, they short up the offensive line, and Harbaugh will make it easier, but they dumped every wide receiver. They have Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, who had a really bad rookie year, and Ladd McConkey as their top 3 receivers.
Gene, before we get out of here this morning, I wanted to touch on this. This came up yesterday. Your team is going to overhaul everything. Everything is on the table except for Embiid and Maxey and Nurse. Those are pretty strong statements coming out of Philadelphia. Gene, as someone who has your ear to the beat of Philadelphia, what does that mean to you when you see that big statement of everybody's name is on the chopping block, only 3 people are safe, the changes are coming into town, Gene? Then you look at the roster and you say, well, in a perfect world, sure, you would get a bunch of new pieces. You would get rid of a bunch of bad contracts. But then you realize we got to play in the rules of the NBA, and some things you just can't do in an offseason. What are the 76ers going to look like next season? Best case scenario, in your opinion?
I mean, I love that you brought this up, but it's the same old for the 76ers. Like, let's take a second. Let's take a breather, right? Embiid, Maxey. They're the 2 untouchables. Let's just go through the start lineup. DeAnthony Melton wasn't there last year. Was only there for 1 year. Kelly Oubre, only there for 1 year. Like Tobias Harris, we were just waiting for his contract to be done. Buddy Hield, trade deadline. Campaign, trade deadline, half a year. Like, none of these guys have been here. It's not like they do this every year. This is not like they're just constantly mixing the deck and shuffling it back together. I'm going to sound so bad when I say this, and that's okay. A lot of people want Paul George in Philadelphia. They think he's the more complete player. I want to mix Embiid up with his best friend and the guy that they should have never let walk out the door,
Jimmy
Butler, because I don't care what Jimmy gives me in the regular season. I'll even rest him during the regular season. But Jimmy is the dog that this team needs. Maxey is becoming a dog. Embiid is a puppy, and he'll always be a puppy that cares about the media, that cares about awards, that cares about the crowd. Man, if you didn't know how soft Joel Embiid was, all you have to do is listen to his press conference after Game 4 when he said, the Knicks fans took over our place, and that really upsets me. Bro, how about the fact you had 1 point in the 4th quarter? That should upset you. Like, instead of saying I should be better and we should have won the basketball game, he's worried about the Knicks fans overtaking the Wells Fargo Center. Come on, dude. I promise you this. That's not anything Jimmy Butler would have said.
No, I agree.
I want Jimmy Butler back, and I would like to have a strong it doesn't have to be a point guard or a 2 guard, but I want a guard that can play defense. I want my offense running between Maxey, Butler, and Embiid. And like that would be the other positions. I want them to be glue guys, 3-and-Ds. Like I would really welcome Nicholas Batum back. I loved what he brought to the team. I think he'd be a great 6-man for them. But I like Nicholas Batum. And if Kyle Lowry wants to stay and be a backup point guard and continue to help Tyrese Maxey develop, which I think he did a hell of a job, I would welcome that also.
Gene, always a pleasure, sir. What's going on with Wire to Wire Sports tonight?
I mean, we're basically going to break down the NBA playoffs. And we dropped the ball. We have our finals. It's Shooter McGavin versus Rocky. We're going to post that tonight. And I would love to get your opinions on it. I know that Mo is protesting because he thinks Eric Taylor should be in the finals, which is absurd. He shouldn't be.
You're
Shooter
killing the
McGavin versus
coach.
Rocky is the move.
I
You're
feel like
killing the
Rocky is
coach.
going to win in a landslide, but my vote would be for Shooter. I love a good villain.
Right now,
and
Shooter's up 10-5.
I'm all for that then. I'm all for that. But
he
I
beating
feel like
Rocky?
it's got to be Rocky, though,
Come
right?
on.
I voted for Rocky. Cottrell and Bill both voted for Shooter. Bill is actually being excommunicated from the Philadelphia area. Listen, I'm telling you right now, they were going to his house. They didn't really like what he said. But I think Rocky will win when it comes to the fan vote. We'll have the fan vote up for a whole week. We're going to announce that tonight.
Come on,
And,
is he not the greatest sports character ever?
I think Rocky is. I think
Yes.
Rocky is. Yeah.
Yes.
And the argument for them was he only had 3 good movies. I'm like, what? Like, I think he's in 8 good movies, 9 good movies. Rocky 5 stunk. But so we'll go to
Shooter
8.
was in 1.
Shooter's one of the best villains of all time. But we're going to talk about that, and we're going to recap the UFC, and I'm going to force some NFL talk in there, whether they like it or not.
All right. Well, make sure you are tuning in 7 o'clock tonight, sir.
Yes, sir. Always 7 o'clock Wednesday nights, where you can set your watch to it.
All right. We will see you in the chat tonight. And Jeans, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next week. All right.
Appreciate
Take care,
you.
y'all.
It's got to be Rocky, right, Mo?
I mean, come on, man. Like it's got to be the greatest sports character ever, and it's timeless. Like Stallone made a career off of that. Like if there's no Rocky, there's no Rambo. I can go on and on. Like, and he's right. Other than the Rocky that had, I think it's Tommy. I can't remember his name. The boxer. The one I think in the movie was Tommy Gunn. That sucked. But other than that, I enjoyed all the other Rockies. I mean, look, Shooter's a great villain. But Rocky, come on, man. It's Rocky. I mean, they don't have a statue of Shooter anywhere. Come on.
Well, not only did Stallone make his name off it, Mo, those steps in Philadelphia made their name off of the Rocky movie. How many people have run up those steps and done the victory celebration and
I've done
posted it? You've done it.
I've done it. And let me be really, really honest. When I ran those steps, I was so tired because I didn't realize how long a run that was.
But in all fairness, I am a huge Shooter fan, and I am sure that there are plenty of golfers out there that do the Shooter on the course.
Right.
But is it as iconic as the Rocky steps? No. He has a statue. I mean, no one's talking about sports things or real life things as a Shooter story, but you hear people taking the Rocky story and trying to transplant it into everyday life events. It's gonna be Rocky. Rocky's gonna pull it out.
Rocky went to Russia and beat up a Russian guy. Come on, he did it for our country. The Rock. Come on, man. Look, I get it. I'm not opposed that Shooter's a great sports character. Anybody out there that's listening, but I think there's great sports characters. Then there's an iconic sports character that would be Rocky.
Before we get out of here this morning, Mo, let's talk a little WWE, shall we? First off, interesting news from World Wrestling Entertainment. It was announced that earlier this year, they did not renew the contract of Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry the King Lawler is still under a Legends contract, which means that he can still be used in video games. He can still be used for action figures. He can still be used for one-off appearances at promotional events. That is usually what the standard Legends contract has done. But what that means, though, is he no longer has a on-air talent contract, which means that he cannot be used as an announcer anymore. And it's not shocking, Mo, in the sense of, well, he was such an integral part. No, he wasn't. He was not an integral part of the broadcast teams for Raw or SmackDown or NXT. He would appear every other month or so on the pre-shows for some of the PLEs, or on the post-shows for some of the PLEs. That is where you've seen him recently. But Mo, it's interesting in the sense of it's been a long time since you haven't had either Jim Ross or Jerry the King
Right.
Lawler
Right.
as a part of the WWE landscape. Jerry the King Lawler joined WWE in that role back in 1993. He joined the backstage crew and eventually became an announcer. Obviously, he's had some absences here and there, and especially more recently. But since he's officially out of the company, you are now closing the book on that era, that Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler era. And I know he hasn't been on TV as a consistent character in 4 or 5 years, but it's interesting. You see it and you're like, damn, all right, I'm not gonna see the King call or talk matches anymore. Okay, all right. It is. I know it's past. I know it's time. I know it was time 4 or 5 years ago. When because they'd bring him in every now and then for a pay-per-view, and he'd do a match. Every pay-per-view. That was as recent as 3 or 4 years ago. But it's time. So it's just kind of one of those, okay, interesting kind of moments for me this morning.
It is, because like you said, you're closing the door on that era. And look, I think if you go back to the Attitude Era, Jerry King Lawler was prominent then, right? He in many ways, his character, the way he called matches along with Jim Ross fit the Attitude Era. He was perfect for that era. And then you look where we are now, and like you said, it's time. But I feel like when you think of somebody like Jerry Lawler, of Jim Ross, you kind of still feel comfortable knowing they're around. They don't have to be on every show, but I would feel great if the King could come on once every month or so, or every other month, and you just heard him call a match or make an appearance. They're just like those old comfortable slippers that you like having around. It makes you feel better.
You hear that, Mo? That's AEW putting JR and Jerry the King Lawler back together on that's what they're gonna do, Mo. I bank on it.
You think so, really?
I guarantee you at some point, how can Tony Khan refuse? How can he refuse the opportunity for one night, for one match? They're gonna hype it up. That's what AEW does, relive the Attitude Era.
I think that's what they're doing now. They're trying to redo the Attitude Era. Yeah,
they're gonna put JR and Jerry the King Lawler together for one night for something. I guarantee we're gonna see it. Because that's what Tony Khan's doing right now. He's a kid in a candy store over there, and he's also trying to run a business. Crazy. Last thing, Mo, we're trending this direction. We just saw at the last PLE main event, Jey Uso, he had an opportunity for the title. He is being built up as a single star. I guess you could argue that his singles run has been a success, minus the brother versus brother match at WrestleMania, which was an absolute failure. He is now entering King of the Ring as one of the favorites, along with Gunther, to win King of the Ring. I don't think he's going to win King of the Ring. I think they're going to give it to Gunther because I think he is about to get a rocket strapped to him. And he has the main event picture all over him once he becomes King of the Ring. But Mo, we're going to get to the point now where we're going to ask the question, because in WWE, there's these windows, right? There's these windows when you're and let's use Kofi as an example. Kofi was a tag team wrestler. He had some success in the mid-range with the IC and the US title.
Sure.
And then he always fell back to the tag team route. He was a great wrestler. He is a great wrestler. But then he caught fire, and there was a window. There was a window where WWE could have made him world champion if they wanted to, and they capitalized on it, and they did that. I think Jey is in a window right now. He is in a window where if they did it sometime soon, you wouldn't look at it and be like, what are they doing, Jey? No, he's there. He's there right now if they want to figure out a way to capitalize on it. The question is, Mo, are they going to? Are they going to pull the trigger, and are they going to make main event Jey Uso the champion at some point in the near future?
Look, I love what you just said there. He is in a window, and I was wondering the same thing. I'd like to believe they are, but you just brought up a great point. Gunther's getting ready to get strapped to a rocket, and he's getting ready to go up. And you just crowned Cody Rhodes, so he's still new to it. I don't see Cody going anywhere anytime soon. Gunther's coming up. I don't know where Jay fits in. I think he gets an opportunity for sure, but are they going to actually put him all the way over? I don't know. I think Jay Uso is a very good singles wrestler, but I don't think I'm trying to think of guys that were tag team wrestlers that stepped out of that box and became top level singles wrestlers. He's not. I don't think he's on Kofi's level. I don't think he's on Shawn Michaels level. He's not on. I don't think he's on Edge's level. I think Jay has a window, but I think his window would be something like eventually becoming the IC champion, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I think he'd make a great IC champion, but I don't think Jay's going to be the heavyweight champion. I think at some point he wins the IC, but eventually he goes back to being a tag team wrestler. And again, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't think he's going to get put over anytime soon, if ever, as the heavyweight champ.
And the other thing to consider here is it's all about timing. And when you're looking at Cody Rhodes, who just finished the story, he's going to have the belt for a minute. You're looking at Gunther, who's coming up. Once he gets there, he's going to have the belt for a minute. Sometimes there's just lulls, right? It could be because of injuries. It could be because of stale characters or stale storylines. Sometimes you get a lull, and to get yourself out of it, you're like, let's make Jinder Mahal champion for 118 days.
Right.
And when it's all said and done, you look back and you're like, they made Jinder Mahal champion for 128 days?
Right.
But there was a lull, and someone had to fill it, and it just kind of all synced up in the right way. I don't think we're in that situation.
No.
I don't think Jay's going to be able to take advantage of that situation.
Jay didn't have that lull.
I think he's destined to get back with Jimmy now that Jimmy's been excommunicated from the bloodline. I think he's destined to finish that bloodline story when Reigns eventually comes back. I think that's what we're looking at. Might he have an IC run somewhere in between?
Maybe.
I hope so, because take that damn belt off Sami Zayn, because he never should have had it in the first place.
No.
Put that belt on Jey Uso.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point too. There's these moments and there's a lull, but Reigns is going to come back. And yes, there'll be the bloodline story, but eventually Reigns is going to be refocused on wearing one of the bigger belts. You know it, and I know it. I just don't think there's that void or that opportunity for Jay to ever go to that next level. And there's nothing wrong with it. And I think you're so right with the new storyline and maybe what Reigns hinted at the beginning. We're closer to the beginning than the end. I think that eventually he makes his way back to Jimmy and they go back to being the tag team champions at some point down the road.
And let's not forget, you're going to have Seth Rollins come back in a few months when he's healthier. You got CM Punk, who is on the shelf right now. You got Drew McIntyre, who just re-signed his deal. He hasn't been given a legitimate run with the belt when there's actually been fans in the stands. So you got to figure at some point he might get his third title reign. There's too much talent on the top side of the roster right now with story already set for them for you to throw it on Jay for any reason. Agreed. But Mo, that's the end of our show this morning. Close us out, sir.
Thank you guys for joining Chris and I this morning. We appreciate the NFL Genius for coming on. Appreciate you, Will, giving us some knowledge on the NBA. Check out all the great content that we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network. Check us out.
Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow. It is not a JG morning tomorrow because he is on the road. He is heading to conference championships. They got conference playoffs going on. He'll be back next week to tell us how it all went down. But don't worry, because we got a packed show tomorrow. We got some NFL stuff. We'll be breaking down everything that happens in the NBA playoffs, all of that and more. Coffee and sports. It's the morning show.